Why? I need to write this down. Partly because I need to process what the hell is happening, partly because if things go sideways, well, maybe someone will find this. My name's Mark. Mark Sheridan. I'm just a regular guy, mid-30s, working a soil-crushing corporate job back in Chicago. You know the type, fluorescent lights, endless spreadsheets, passive-aggressive emails, the constant low-grade hum of anxiety that follows you home and tucks you into bed at night. The last year, it was brutal. A big project launch, unrealistic, dead office, politics that would make Machiavelli blush. I was running on fumes, caffeine, and sheer spite. My sleep schedule was a mess. My diet consisted primarily of things that came out of vending machines or delivery bags. And my doctor politely suggested I consider hobbies that didn't involve staring at a screen until my eyes bled. I needed a break. Not just a long weekend, but a real escape. Somewhere warm, somewhere far away from the incessant ping of my work phone. Somewhere I could just breathe. Hawaii. It's always been the dream, right? Palm trees, sandy beaches, turquoise water, Lewis, volcanoes, the whole klitsch and package. The problem: Hawaii is expensive. Like, really expensive. Especially if you want beachfront. And buddy, after the year I had, I didn't just want near the beach. I wanted to step off the porch and feel sand between my toes. I wanted to fall asleep to the sound of waves, not sirens and drunkards singing off-key outside my apartment at 3 a.m. My budget was tight. The project bonus was less bonus, and more here's a little something so you don't quit immediately. So, I started scoring the internet. Airbnb, VRBO. Sketchy-looking local rental sites. Days turned into weeks. Everything beachfront was either booked solid for months, or cost more per night than my monthly rent. I found places inland, places with ocean glimpses, places described as a short, invigorating hike to the shore, read miles away up a damn mountain. Discouragement was setting in hard. Maybe it was destined to be another staycation, arguing with my landlord about the radiator. Then, I found it. Tucked away on a less trafficked part of Kauai, listed simply as rustic beachfront bungalow. The pictures, well, they were okay. A bit grainy. Some weird angles. Showed a small, weathered wooden house right on the sand, surrounded by lush greenery. Palm trees leaned picturesquely over the roof. The interior shots showed simple, slightly dated furniture, but clean. Wicker chairs, a bamboo-framed bed, a tiny kitchenette. Nothing fancy, but the location. It looked like it was practically in the ocean. And the price. Oh God, the price. It was bafflingly low. Like, is this a typo? Low. Less than half the price of anything remotely comparable I'd seen. For beachfront. In Hawaii. My cynical Chicago brain immediately screamed scam. Red flag. Togo tuo by ETRW, I checked the host profile. Naming Kala. Minimal information. Only a handful of reviews, mostly short and vaguely positive. Wonderful location, said one. Unique experience, said another. Peaceful, mentioned a third. Nothing specific, nothing overly gushing. But nothing terrible either. No mention of scams or hidden fees. I hesitated for maybe 10 seconds. The image of those spreadsheets flashed before my eyes. The memory of my boss asking me to circle back on a Sunday afternoon. The sheer, bone-deep exhaustion. Screw it. I clicked book now. Faster than I've ever clicked anything in my life. If it was a scam, well, I'd deal with the fallout. But the possibility of waking up to that view for that price. It was worth the gamble. Kala accepted the booking almost instantly. The communication was brief. Polite, but minimal. Just confirmation, check-in instructions, key under a specific potted plant by the door, and a short message egg. Welcome to Kauai. Please read the house notes upon arrival. They are important for your stay. Aloha. House notes. Okay, sure. Probably stuff about Wi-Fi. Trash days, don't track sand inside. Standard Airbnb stuff. I packed my bags, feeling a thrill I hadn't felt in years. A real vacation. An adventure. Fast forward through the long flight. The stuffy airport shuttle, picking up my rental Jeep. A dusty older model, fitting the budget theme. The drive out to the property was something else. Kauai is stunningly beautiful, almost aggressively green. Mountains draped in emerald velvet plunged towards the sea. But as I followed the GPS directions, the roads got narrower, bumpier, more remote. Paved roads turned to gravel. Gravel turned into tracks winding through dense jungle. Cell service vanished about 20 minutes back. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth, salt, and unknown flowers. It felt less like heading to a tourist spot, and more like driving off the edge of the map. Finally, after a particularly jarring set of roots and a sharp turn through a curtain of hanging vines, the jungle opened up. And there it was. The pictures hadn't lied, but they hadn't told the whole truth either. The bungalow was small, weathered gray wood, perched on slightly crooked stilts, just above the high tide line. Palm trees did indeed lean over it, casting dappled shadows. The beach stretched out in front, a crescent of golden sand meeting impossibly blue water. To the left and right, the jungle pressed close, forming dense green walls that ran right down to the sand. There were no other houses visible. None. Just the bungalow, the ocean, and the jungle. It was breathtakingly beautiful, but also isolated. Intensely isolated. I parked the Jeep near a cluster of large, smooth lava rocks. Stepping out, the sound hit me first, the rhythmic crash and sigh of the waves. Surprisingly loud. Then the silence underneath it. No traffic, no people, no distant hum of civilization. Just the ocean and the rustle of wind in the leaves. I found the key right where Kala said it would be, under a terracotta pot containing a rather wilted-looking fern. The lock on the wooden door was old. A heavy brass thing that required a bit of jiggling. It opened with a complaining creak into the main room. Inside, it was exactly as pictured. Simple, rustic. A bit dark even with the afternoon sun outside. Wicker furniture, a small table, the tiny kitchenette in one corner. A ceiling fan turned slowly, stirring the humid air. It smelled faintly of salt, old wood, and something else, something vaguely floral, but also a little musty. Like damp earth. There was a single bedroom off the main room, and a small bathroom. Basic but functional. The real selling point was the large screened-in porch facing the ocean. I slid open the glass door and stepped out. Wow, the view was insane. Unobstructed panorama of the Pacific. The sound of the waves was even louder here. I could taste the salt spray. This was what I needed. All the stress, the cynicism, I discovered why. The exhaustion, it felt like it was starting to evaporate with the sea breeze. Then I saw it. Lying on the small wicker table on the porch was a laminated sheet of paper. Typed, single-spaced. Tightly. How vuoksi raiules in important. I farmin for your stay at the beachfront bungalow. Okay, here we go. We fig password checkout time. I pick it up, and my stomach did a slow, cold lurch. This wasn't standard Airbnb stuff. Not even close. It started normally enough. 1. Welcome. We hope you enjoy the peace and unique beauty of this location. 2. Wi-Fi mu password provided. 9. Service can be intermittent due to our remote location. 3. Trash and recycling bins located behind the bungalow. Please secure lids tightly. 4. Checkout 10,000 AM. Please leave the key back under the fern pot. Standard. Fine, but then it shifted. 5. Screen doors. Keep the porch screen door and the main screen door. If you open the wooden door for air. Cleosed and latsochetaltms. This is not just for insects. Especially crucial after sunset. Do not leave them open, even for a moment. Okay, a bit intense, but maybe they have issues with crabs or birds getting in. Weird phrasing though. Not just for insects. 6. Ocean swimming. Swimming is permitted OALI during date hours. Sunrise to sunset, and ONY in the area directly in front of the bungalow, extending no further than the large black rock visible to the left at low tide. DONOT swim before sunrise or after sunset. Do not swim further down the beach to the right, beyond the line of palm trees closest to the water. This is extremely important. Currents are not the primary concern. Wait. Restricted swimming area. Anti-currents are not the primary concern. What is the primary concern then? Sharks. But why only at certain times or certain spots? That's odd. 7. Noise level. So please maintain low noise levels, especially outdoors, after 9 p.m. Sound travels easily here. We ask you respect the quiet requested. Big the surroundings. Avoid loud music or shouting on the porch or beach at night. Requested by the surroundings, not neighbors. That's a strange way to put it, given that there are no visible neighbors. 8. Night walk. So we strongly advise against walking on the beach or into the jungle areas after dark. Stay within the immediate vicinity of the bungalow lights. If you must step outside briefly onto the porch, do so quickly. Strongly advise against. That's more than just a suggestion. And why only briefly onto the porch? 9. Food storage. All food must be stored in sealed containers or inside the refrigerator. This includes snacks, fruit, etc. Do not leave any food items out, even crumbs, on counters or tables overnight. Not even sealed packaged goods. Put everything away securely. Critters here are persistent. Okay, that sounds more normal. Ants, rodents maybe. Though the emphasis felt a little frantic. Then came the next section. Under a bolded heading, time porcals non-negotiable. My blood ran a little colder. Non-negotiable. 10. The porch offering each evening. Before you intend to sleep, Place the small ceramic bowl found under the kitchen sink on the small wooden stool beside the porch door. Outside, fill it with effervescent wash water from the plastic gallon jugs provided under the sink. DONOT use tap water. Do not add anything else. Bring the bowl inside at first thing in the morning, at sunrise, or shortly after, and empty it directly into the kitchen sink drain. Wash the bowl thoroughly afterwards. Do not skip this. What the actual UCK, an offering, a bowl of specific water left outside, then brought in and emptied immediately. What is this for? Why bottled water? Why empty it immediately? This was veering deep into weird territory. Superstition. Some local custom the host insists on. 11. Window coverings. Ensure all window blinds and curtains are fully closed after sunset. Do not peek out through gaps or edges. If you hear tapping or scratching on the windows or walls, ignore it. It is most likely branches or small animals. Most likely. That's not reassuring, and don't peek out. Why? What would I see if it wasn't branches? 12. Whistling. During the night, you hear a distinct, melodic whistling sound coming from the direction of the jungle, especially to the right side of the bungalow. DONOTACKNOBLEGIT. Do not whistle back. Do not call out. Do not shine a light towards the source. Ensure all doors are locked, stay inside, and remain quiet. It will eventually pass. My heart was starting to pound now. Whistling. Melodic whistling from the jungle. And specific instructions not to interact. This wasn't about keeping critters out anymore. This felt different, predatory. 13. Ocean sounds. The sound of the waves can be hypnotic. However, if you hear sounds from the ocean night that seem out of place, rhythmic splashing, when the sea is calm, sounds like soft singing or whispers carried on the breeze, treat them the same as the whistling. Stay inside, keep curtains closed. Do not investigate. Singing. Whispers from the ocean. Okay, nope. This had officially crossed the line from quirky into genuinely unsettling. My mind raced. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? Was the host mentally unstable? Or was this real? Some kind of local legend or danger they were trying to warn me about in the most cryptic way possible. 14. Reflections. Avoid looking directly into mirrors or dark, reflective surfaces, like the TV screen when off, or dark windows, for prolonged periods after midnight. Fleeting glances are unavoidable, but do not stare. What? Avoid mirrors. Why? What happens if you stare? This was pure folklore horror movie trope territory. I felt a prickle of fear crawl up my spine. 15. In case of power failure. A generator is located in the shed behind the bungalow. Key on the main keyring. Instructions are taped to it. New discovered why. It is vital to restore power to the bungalow's exterior lights as quickly as possible if they go out during the night. There are backup battery lanterns in the bedroom closet. Use them to get to the generator shed safely. Prioritize restoring exterior lights. Why was keeping the exterior lights on so critical? What were they keeping out? I read the list again, slowly. My initial excitement about the beautiful, cheap bungalow was rapidly being replaced by a growing dread. This wasn't just a list of rules. It felt like a survival guide. Each rule seemed designed to prevent interaction with something. Something in the jungle. Something in the ocean. Something that came out at night. Attracted by sound, light, maybe even reflections. I looked out at the stunning, sun-drenched beach, the inviting blue water. It looked like paradise. But the laminated sheet in my hand felt cold, heavy. It painted a completely different picture of this place, a picture hidden just beneath the surface, waiting for sunset. Part of me wanted to grab my bags, jump in the Jeep, and drive until I found cell service and the nearest brightly lit, boring, overpriced chain hotel. Screw the money I'd already paid. But another part, the exhausted, stressed part that had booked this trip in the first place, it was still there. Maybe it was just local superstition. Maybe Kala was overly cautious, eccentric. Maybe it was all explainable, weird, nocturnal animals, strange acoustics, local pranksters whistling in the jungle. Could I really just leave? Drive back through those creepy jungle roads in the approaching dusk? I looked at the list again. Rule 10. The offering bowl. Under the sink, Kala said. Why? I walked numbly to the kitchenette. Sure enough, tucked behind the cleaning supplies was a simple, small, earthenware bowl. Beside it were several sealed gallon jugs of generic bottled spring water. Okay, Mark, I thought. Deep breaths. You're tired. Why? You're letting your imagination run wild. It's probably nothing. Follow the stupid rules for one night. What's the worst that can happen? Keep the doors locked, put out the damn bowl of water, close the curtains, ignore weird noises. Easy, it's just quirky. But as the sun began its descent towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, the beauty felt different. Sharper. More menacing. The shadows cast by the palm trees seemed darker, longer. The sound of the waves, once soothing, now felt like a constant, watchful presence. I was here. I was alone, and I had a list of very strange rules to follow. Tonight was going to be long. The sunset was spectacular, I'll give it that. A riot of color bleeding across the sky, turning the ocean's surface into liquid fire. But watching it from the screened-in porch, that laminated list of rules sitting heavy on the table beside me, felt less like enjoying paradise and more like watching a timer count down. Each degree the soon sank felt like a tightening nut in my stomach. As soon as the last sliver of direct sunlight vanished behind the horizon, plunging the beach into a deep, hazy twilight, I sprang into action. Survival mode, I guess. Or maybe just blind panic disguised as efficiency. First the doors. Rule H5 to keep screen doors closed, and letsread Thomas. Especially crucial after sunset. I went around, checking the latch on the main screen door. Then the one leading out to the porch. They seemed flimsy, frankly. Easy to push open if something really wanted in. I checked the lock on the main wooden door too, sliding the deadbolt home with a decisive clunk. Small comfort, but I took it. Next, food storage. Rule A9 to put everything away securely. Not even sealed packaged goods. I hadn't bought much, some snacks. Coffee, bread, peanut butter. Enough for a few days, but I took the rules seriously. I found plastic containers under the sink. next to that damn ceramic bowl, and sealed everything, even the unopened bag of chips. I wiped down the counters meticulously, chasing every stray crumb. I put the fruit I'd bought deep inside the ancient, humming refrigerator. The place smelled vaguely of blean. I was done. Overkill. Maybe. But the word persistent used to describe the critters stuck with me. Then, the windows. Rule 1111: ensure all window blinds and curtains are fully closed after sunset. The bungalow had flimsy bamboo blinds and thin, faded floral curtains. I went room by room, drawing them shut, plunging the interior into premature darkness. The setting sun still cast an eerie orange glow through the thin fabric, but the view was cut off. It felt claustrophobic, like being sealed in a box. But the rules said close them, so I closed them. Finally, the one I was dreading most. Rule 100: the porch offering. My hands felt clammy as I retrieved the small, plain earthenware bowl from under the sink. It felt cool and slightly rough to the touch. Beside it, the gallon jugs of spring water. Kayla's instructions were unnervingly specific. Fresh water. Do not use tap water. Place on the small wooden stool beside the porch door outside. Before you intend to sleep. It wasn't quite bedtime. But dusk was deepening rapidly, the jungle already a wall of impenetrable black. Seemed like a good time. My heart hammered as I unscrewed the cap on a fresh gallon jug. The glugging sound, as I poured the water into the bowl, echoed unnaturally loud in the quiet bungalow. I filled it almost to the brim, as instructed. Carrying the bowl felt ridiculous, ritualistic, like something out of a folk horror movie. I slid open the porch door just enough to slip outside, the humid night air instantly enveloping me. The sound of the waves was a constant roar now, seeming louder in the darkness. A small, rickety wooden stool exactly where the rule indicated, near the door frame. Trembling slightly, I placed the bowl of water carefully onto the stool. It sat there, a small, still circle reflecting the faint light spilling from the doorway. What was this for? Appeasement. A ward. Who, or what, was meant to drink this? I didn't linger. Rule HE8 warned against being outside, even on the porch. I slipped back inside, latching the screen door firmly behind me, then shut and locked the main glass door too. Trapped in my box. Okay. Rules followed. Mostly. It wasn't midnight yet. 14 reflections, and I hadn't heard any whistling. Rule a 12 or weird ocean sounds. Rule a 13. All I had to do now was wait. Wait for morning. I tried to distract myself. Unpacked my suitcase fully, arranging my few clothes in the small dresser. Tried reading the battered paperback I'd brought, but the words swam. My ears strained, listening. The bungalow creaked. Wood settling. Or something else. The wind rustled the palm fronds near the roof, dry, scraping sound. Or was it Rule 11, tapping and scratching? Ignore it, the rule said. Most likely branches are small animals, right? Most likely. I made coffee, needing the routine, the warmth. Sat at the small table sipping it, staring at the drawn floral curtains as if I could bore a hole through them with my gaze. The isolation felt immense. Back home, even late at night, there were always sounds, distant traffic, sirens, neighbors. Here, just the ocean, the wind, and the creaks of the old house, and the unnerving possibility of other things. Around 9 p.m., as per Rule H7, I made sure my phone was silenced. Not that it mattered without service, and turned off the dim overhead light, leaving only a small lamp on in the corner. The exterior lights, thankfully, were on automatic timers and cast pools of weak yellow light around the bungalow, illuminating the edge of the sand and the first few feet of jungle. It wasn't much, but it was better than total darkness outside. Rule of 15 stressed their importance. Time crawled. 11 p.m. My body was exhausted from the travel and stress, but my mind was buzzing, hyper alert. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. Every skittering noise on the roof a gecko. A rat made me jump. I kept glancing towards the porch door, imagining the small bowl of water sitting out there in the dark. Then I heard it. A faint tapping sound, coming from the window behind the drawn curtains in the bedroom. My blood froze. Rule 11. If you hear tapping or scratching on the windows or walls, ignore it. Tap, 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 tap. It was rhythmic, too rhythmic for branches surely. Branches scrape and swish. This was deliberate, slow, persistent. Tap, 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 tap. My eyes were glued to the curtained window. Every instinct screamed at me to rip the curtains aside, to see what was making the noise, or to flick on all the lights. Make noise, scare it away. But the rule is ignore it. Do not peek. I forced myself to stay seated, gripped my coffee mug so hard my knuckles turned white. Tried to breathe evenly. It's the wind, I told myself. It's a gecko climbing the glass. It's a loose shutter. My rational mind offered explanations, but the fear center of my brain wasn't buying it. The tapping felt probing, inquisitive, like something was testing the boundary. It went on for maybe 5 minutes, though it felt like an eternity. Each tap echoed the pounding in my chest. Then, as abruptly as it started, it stopped. Silence returned, save for the waves and the wind. I didn't move for a long time. Just sat there, straining my ears. Had it gone? Or was it just waiting? Midnight came and went. I remember Rule of 14G: avoid looking directly into mirrors or dark, reflective surfaces. After midnight, I glanced nervously at the dark screen of the small TV, at the black window panes, where the curtains didn't quite meet the frame. Caught my own wide-eyed reflection for a split second in the darkened glass of the microwave and flinched away. Why? What was the danger? What could you possibly see? I didn't want to find out. Exhaustion finally started to win out over terror. Or maybe my brain was just overloaded. I decided to try and sleep. Retreated to the bedroom, checked the window lock. It was secured. Made sure the blinds were tight shut. Climbed into the bed, which creaked ominously under my weight. The air was thick and still. I left the bedside lamp on. Darkness felt like a liability here. I must have drifted off, because the sound jolted me awake. I sat bolt upright, heart hammering against my ribs, sweat prickling my skin. Whistling. Rule of 12. You hear a distinct, melodic whistling sound coming from the direction of the jungle. Dio naka ke nobly git. It wasn't just any whistling. It was high-pitched, unnervingly clear, and melodic. A complex little tune, repetitive, almost like a bird call, but not. No bird sounded like that, especially not in the dead of night. Why? It had an intelligence behind it, a musicality that was deeply, fundamentally wrong. It seemed to be coming from the jungle, off to the right. Just as the rules specified. Do not acknowledge it. Do not whistle back, do not call out, do not shine a light. I clamped my hands over my mouth to stifle any sound. Every nerve ending screamed. The melody seemed to curl through the night air, weaving itself into the sound of the waves. It was beautiful, in a terrifying way. Haunting, and it felt expectant, like it was waiting for a response. Part of the tune sounded almost familiar, like a distorted nursery rhyme, but twisted into something strange and unsettling. It would play through, pause, then begin again, slightly different each time, as if improvising. I squeezed my eyes shut, pulling the thin blanket up to my chin like a child. Ignore it. Stay inside. Remain quiet. The words from the rule sheet echoed in my head. The whistling continued, clear as a bell cutting through the night. It felt like it was getting closer, though it was hard to tell with the acoustics and the constant ocean roar. How long did it last? 10 minutes. 20. An hour. Time lost all meaning. There was only the darkness, the sound of the waves, and that horribly beautiful, terrifying whistling. I stayed frozen, barely breathing, praying for it to stop, praying for sunrise. And then, silence. The whistling just faded out mid-tune. Not abruptly cut off, more like it dissolved into the background noise, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier, more menacing than the sound itself. I didn't sleep again. Lay there rigid, listening, until the first hints of gray light started to seep through the edges of the curtains. Sunrise. Never in my life have I been so relieved to see the dawn. As soon as the sun was properly up, casting long shadows across the beach, I moved. First priority rule at 10. Bring the bowl inside fire rest. Thing in the morning at sunrise, or shortly after, and empty it directly into the kitchen sink drain. Wash the bowl thoroughly. My hand trembled as I unlocked the porch door and slid it open. The morning air was cool, damp, smelling of salt and greenery. And there, on the small wooden stool, sat the earthenware bowl. It was empty. Not evaporated, the humidity was too high for that overnight. Not spilled, the stool and the porch beneath it were dry. It looked as if something had delicately, completely, drunk every last drop of the fresh spring water I'd left out. A cold wave washed over me. The offering, it wasn't superstition. Something had come. Something had accepted it. Following the rule to the letter, I picked up the dry bowl, carried it directly to the kitchen sink, and poured the imaginary contents down the drain. Then I scrubbed it, inside and out, with hot water and soap, until it felt clean. Putting it back under the sink felt like handling a contaminated object. My mind was reeling. The tapping, the whistling, the empty bowl. These weren't coincidences. They weren't my imagination. The rules were real. They were necessary. And whatever they were protecting me from, it was real too. I needed to think. Needed coffee. Needed to not be inside this creepy bungalow for a minute. With the sun up, the fear lessened slightly, replaced by a grim sort of unease. I cautiously stepped out onto the porch, scanning the beach. Everything looked normal. Peaceful even. Golden sand, sparkling water, gentle waves. We soon discovered why. No strange footprints near the porch or the stool, just my own from the night before. I walked down the wooden steps onto the sand. Looked towards the jungle edge where the whistling had seemed to come from. Just dense, impenetrable green. No sign of disturbance. Looked towards the area where the tapping occurred. Nothing. Just weathered wood siding. It was like the night had been wiped clean by the daylight. Except I knew. I knew what I'd heard. What I'd felt. I checked my phone again. Still no service. Of course. I walked down the beach a little way. Towards the approved swimming area marked by the black rock. The isolation felt even more profound in the daylight. Just me, the bungalow, the vast ocean, and the watchful jungle. Getting out of here wouldn't be a quick pop down the road. It was a long, winding drive back through those remote tracks. Could I last another night? Could I spend the day here, knowing what waited for the sun to set? Knowing I had to perform that ritual again tonight? As I stood there, waves washing around my ankles, staring back at the little weathered bungalow that had seemed like such a dream come true, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. High up, near the peak of the roof on the side, facing the jungle, the side the whistling came from, there was a series of dark marks etched into the wood. Not weathering, they looked deliberate. Symbols, carvings. Too far away to see clearly, but they looked old. And they looked unsettlingly like warnings. My cheap Hawaiian getaway had turned into something else entirely. And I had a sinking feeling the rules were the only thing keeping me alive. The morning light felt thin, fragile, like a temporary shield against the suffocating darkness that had owned the night. Coffee helped, but it did little to steady the trimmer in my hands or silence the replay loop of that melodic, predatory whistling in my head. The empty water bowl sat under the sink, a clean, mundane object that was now imbued with a terrifying significance. It was proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. And proof that something unnatural had visited the porch while I cowered inside. My eyes kept drifting to the roofline, towards those strange markings I'd noticed. Curiosity warred with a primal instinct to just not know. But I had to see them better. Ignoring this felt like ignoring a gaping hole in my lifeboat. The bungalow wasn't tall, but the roof pitch was steep, and there was no ladder. I dragged one of the heavier wicker chairs from the porch onto the sand, positioning it near the corner of the house facing the jungle. It wobbled precariously. This was stupid. Risking a broken ankle out here, alone. With no cell service, but the need to understand, even a little, outweighed the caution. Balancing carefully, I stood on the chair, craning my neck. My phone, useless for calls, still had a camera. I held it up, zooming in as much as I could. The markings were definitely deliberate. Not random scratches. They were carved deep into the weathered wood. Darkened with age or maybe something else. They weren't letters or any symbols I recognized. more like crude pictograms. Stick figure-like shapes, but elongated, distorted. Some seemed to have too many limbs. Others had heads that were just sharp angles. There were wavy lines depicting water, and sharp triangular shapes representing the jungle trees. And recurring symbols. One looked like an open eye. Another like a crescent moon pierced by a vertical line. It felt ancient, tribal, and deeply unsettling. A warning, clear as day, even if I couldn't decipher the exact language. Placed right where the whistling seemed strongest. Getting down from the chair, my legs shaky, I felt a new layer of dread settle over me. This wasn't just callous eccentric rules. This place, this specific patch of land, had a history. A dark one, judging by the carvings. The day stretched ahead, long and unnervingly quiet except for the ceaseless waves. I needed to do something, anything, other than sit inside that oppressive bungalow waiting for nightfall. Rule H60: swimming permitted ONOY during daylight hours. ONOY in the area directly in front, no further than the large black rock. Okay. I needed the ocean, the salt, the sun. Needed to feel normal for a bit. I put on my swim trunks, grabbed a towel, and walked down to the water's edge, deliberately staying well within the prescribed zone. The water was cooler than I expected, clear and inviting. I waded in, the waves pushing and pulling gently. The black rock mentioned in the rule was about 50 yards out to my left, encrusted with barnacles. To my right, the beach curved away towards the dense jungle headland. Rule I-6 explicitly forbade swimming there. Currents are not the primary concern. What then? Standing waist deep, looking towards that forbidden stretch of water, I felt a prickle on knees. Did something live there? Something that didn't like swimmers. I stayed put, splashing water on my face, trying to pretend this was the relaxing Hawaiian vacation I dreamed of. But every shadow under the water, every dark patch of seaweed, made my heart jump. After maybe 20 minutes, the forced relaxation felt too strained. I got out, toweled off quickly, and scanned the beach again. Nothing seemed out of place. No tracks other than my own and perhaps some seabirds. The jungle remained a silent green wall. The bungalow looked small and vulnerable against it. I couldn't just stay here. I couldn't spend another day trapped, waiting for the whistling, the tapping, the whatever that drank water from bowls left on porches. I had to try and get help, or at least information. I had to try and reach Kala. And that meant driving back towards civilization. Back through those awful jungle tracks. Until I found cell service. The decision made, a surge of anxious energy propelled me. I quickly changed, grabbed my keys and wallet, and locked the bungalow up tight. Casting one last nervous glance at the carvings on the roof. Getting into the Jeep felt like a small escape, even though I knew I'd likely have to come back. The drive was even worse than the arrival journey. Knowing what lay behind me, and potentially around me, made every shadow deeper, every rustle in the undergrowth more sinister. The track seemed narrower, the ruts deeper. The jungle pressed close, vines occasionally scraping against the Jeep's sides. Twice, I had to navigate around fallen branches, that definitely hadn't been there on the way in. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. What if the Jeep broke down? What if I got stuck out here? Halfway between the haunted bungalow and a world that couldn't reach me. After what felt like an eternity, bouncing and jarring over the rough terrain, I saw it, the blessed sight of a paved road ahead. And a few minutes after turning onto it, my phone chirped. 1 bar, then 2. Hope surged. I pulled over immediately, engine idling. Who to call? 91 felt like an overreaction, based on what? Weird rules and spooky noises. They'd laugh me off the island. I needed to contact Kala. I found the Airbnb message thread. My hands shook as I typed. Kala, Mark here. Staying at the bungalow. Need to understand these rules. Heard things last night, whistling. Tapping. The water bowl was empty. Is this place safe? What's going on? I hit send, watching the progress bar crawl. Message sent. Now, the wait. Minutes tick by. I tried calling. The number associated with the Airbnb account went straight to a generic voicemail. I tried searching online. A Kauai folklore night whistling. Strange rules Airbnb Hawaii. Beachfront bungalow Kauai spirits. Melodic whistling jungle Kauai. The results were vague. Lots of tourist stuff. Mentions of kapu, sacred or forbidden places. Stories about the Hukaipo, the night marchers. Spirits of ancient warriors who are said to patrol certain areas after dark. Legends warned never to interrupt them. Never look at them directly. Lie face down and remain silent if you hear their drums or chanting. Whistling wasn't specifically mentioned in the brief articles I could load with the weak signal. But the general theme of respecting ancient spirits and avoiding certain areas at night was prevalent. Nothing about water bowls or avoiding mirrors. Then, my phone buzzed. A reply from Kala. My heart leaped. The message was short, terse, exactly like her previous communications. Mark, told you rules are important. For safety. Follow them exactly. Do not deviate. Do not investigate. Respect the place. You will be fine if you follow the rules. Enjoy the quiet. That was it. No explanation. No reassurance. Just follow the rules. Respect the place. It wasn't a denial. It was a confirmation. A chillingly calm confirmation that the dangers were real, and the rules were my only defense. Enjoy the quiet. What quiet? The quiet between the terrifying noises. A wave of despair washed over me. Kala wasn't going to help. She knew exactly what went on here and rented it out anyway. Maybe the rules did work. Maybe no one had ever gotten hurt as long as they followed them. Was that supposed to be comforting? There was no point staying out here. Driving further to a town felt useless now. Kala's message, combined with the folklore snippets, painted a grim picture. I was on my own. In a place steeped in something ancient and potentially malevolent. Armed only with a laminated sheet of cryptic instructions. The drive back to the bungalow was filled with a sense of doom. I felt like I was willingly walking back into a cage. As I pulled up near the lava rocks, the sun was already beginning its descent. Night 2 was coming. This time the preparations were different. Not done with skepticism or annoyance. but with the grim focus of someone preparing for a siege. I checked every lock, every window blind, making sure there were no gaps. I meticulously stored the few remaining food items. I found the backup battery lanterns rule, a 15 mentioned in the bedroom closet. 2 sturdy, heavy-duty ones, and checked that they worked, placing one by the front door and one by my bed, just in case the power failed, and I needed to make that dreaded run to the generator shed behind the bungalow. The thought made my skin crawl. As dusk bled into night, I performed the water bowl ritual again, filling the earthenware bowl with the spring water, placing it on the stool outside the porch door. This time it didn't feel silly. It felt like paying a toll, appeasing something I couldn't see, couldn't comprehend, but deeply feared. I retreated inside, locking everything. The silence felt heavier tonight, charged with anticipation. I turned on the small lamp, leaving the overhead light off. Sat at the table, book open in my lap but unread, listening. The tapping started earlier tonight. Rule 11. Not just on the bedroom window, but on the living room window too. Near where I sat. Tap, tap, tap. Then a scraping sound, like fingernails dragged across the glass. Ignore it. I squeezed my eyes shut, humming tunelessly, trying to block it out. It was louder, more insistent than last night. Then came a new sound. Rule 13. Sounds from the ocean at night that seem out of place, rhythmic splashing, soft singing or whispers. The tide was high, the waves crashing loud. But underneath it, I started hearing it. A faint, rhythmic splash, splash, splash. Not like random waves. More deliberate. Like something wading slowly through the shallows just beyond the porch light. And carried on the wind, mingling with the salt spray, were whispers. Indistinct, sibilant sounds that almost formed words, but never quite resolved into anything understandable. It sounded like multiple voices, murmuring just at the edge of hearing. Ignore it. Stay inside. Do not investigate. My scalp prickled. Were they out there now, both sides? Jungle and ocean. I must have been visibly shaking, eyes darting towards the curtained windows, towards the locked door. Exhaustion and fear were making me jumpy. I stood up, needing to pace, needing to do something. I walked towards the dark TV screen, then remembered Rule H14. Avoid looking directly into mirrors or dark, reflective surfaces. After midnight. It wasn't midnight yet, but I averted my gaze anyway. Glanced towards the microwave clock, 11:48 p.m. And then, the lamp flickered. My blood turned to ice water. The lamp flickered again, buzzed ominously. The refrigerator hum died for a second, then kicked back on. The weak exterior lights outside dimmed, surged bright, then dimmed again. Rule of 15. It is vital to restore power to the bungalow's exterior lights as quickly as possible if they go out. Panic seized me. The generator shed. Behind the bungalow. In the dark. With the tapping, the splashing, the whispers and potentially, the whistling about to start. The thought of fumbling with the backup lantern. Unlocking the door, stepping out into that darkness. The lamp flickered violently, then stabilized. The exterior lights returned to their weak, steady glow. False alarm. For now. But the possibility hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Midnight passed. I was a wreck, jumping at every creak. I accidentally caught my reflection in the dark window pane for more than a fleeting glance. My own face stared back, pale, wide-eyed. For a horrifying split second, I thought I saw something shift in the darkness behind my reflection. A deeper shadow detaching itself from the blackness outside. I ripped my gaze away, heart pounding, refusing to look back. Was it just my exhausted mind playing tricks? Rule 14. Do not stare. There had to be a reason. Then, the whistling began. Rule 12. That same horrifyingly beautiful melodic tune, drifting from the jungle. Closer tonight. It felt closer. More insistent. The notes seemed to probe at the bungalow walls, searching for a way in. I huddled on the wicker sofa, pulling my knees to my chest, trying to make myself small, tapping on the windows. Whispers and splashing from the ocean, whistling from the jungle. It felt like the bungalow was surrounded, besieged by things that belonged to the night, things the rules were barely holding at bay. And as the whistling reached a particularly high, piercing note, I heard it. A soft, distinct thud from the porch, right near where I'd left the water bowl. Something was on the porch. The sound from the porch, soft but distinct over the cacophony. Splashing, whispering, and tapping slammed into my ears like a physical blow. My breath hitched. My muscles locked. I was huddled on the sofa, knees drawn up facing away from the porch door, but I could picture it perfectly, the small wooden stool. The now empty, surely, earthenware bowl, and something else. Something heavy enough to make that sound when it landed or shifted its weight. Rule 10. Bring the bowl inside first thing in the morning. Rule 8. Do not walk on the beach or into the jungle areas after dark. Stay within the immediate vicinity of the bungalow lights. If you must step outside briefly onto the porch, do so quickly. Neither rule explicitly forbade opening the door to look, but Rule H11 was cleared. Do not peek out through gaps or edges. And Rule A12 and 113. Do not acknowledge it. Do not investigate. The intent was screamingly obvious. Stay inside. Pretend nothing is happening. Hope it goes away. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. What was out there? Had the creature from the jungle, the whistler, come right up to the house? Was it one of the things from the ocean, drawn by the whispers? Was it drinking from the bowl? I heard, or maybe imagined I heard, faint slurping sounds. Thick and wet, mingling with the rhythmic splashing from the shore. The tapping on the windows seemed to pause, as if other entities were deferring to whatever was now on the porch. Even the whistling from the jungle felt momentarily subdued, like everything was holding its breath, except me. I was hyperventilating into my knees, trying desperately to stay silent. Then, the main overhead light in the bungalow died. Not flickered this time, just off, plunging the room into near total darkness. Save for the weak glow of the backup battery lantern I'd placed by the door and the one on the bedside table in the other room. Panic, cold and absolute, flooded me. Rule 15 flashed in mind in giant, terrifying letters. It is vital to restore power to the bungalow's exterior lights as quickly as possible. The exterior lights, which meant the generator shed, behind the bungalow, outside. No, absolutely not. Not now. Not with something potentially on the porch. Not with the whistling likely to start up again any second. With the whispers still snaking in from the ocean. Violating the stay inside seemed infinitely more dangerous than letting the exterior lights stay off. Rule 15 felt like a trap. Was it designed to lure occupants outside? But what if the exterior lights were the only thing keeping something worse at bay? What if their failure was an invitation for something to breach the perimeter? The thought was paralyzing. Stay inside and risk the outer defenses failing. Or go outside and risk immediate confrontation. From the porch came a soft scraping sound, like claws on wood, moving away from the door area. Then, silence from that immediate vicinity. The whistling swelled again from the jungle, louder this time, almost triumphant. The tapping resumed on the windows, frantic, angry. The whispers from the ocean seemed to coalesce into a low, mocking chuckle that rode the waves. Screw the generator. Screw Rule of 15. My survival instinct screamed that opening that door right now was suicide. I grabbed the battery lantern from near the door, its beam cutting a shaky swath through the darkness, and scrambled into the small bedroom. Locked the flimsy door behind me useless, I knew, but it felt marginally better. The second lantern cast long, dancing shadows. I huddled on the bed, away from the windows, lantern aimed at the door, listening to the siege outside. It was the longest night of my life. Every creak of the bungalow settling sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind against the walls, like something trying to claw its way in. The whistling continued for what felt like hours, sometimes seeming to circle the small building. The tapping persisted, a maddening percussion against the glass. The ocean whispers rose and fell with the waves. Impossible sounds that promised insanity if you listened too closely. I didn't dare look towards the window. Didn't dare think about reflections in the dark glass. I just sat there, rigid with terror, praying for the dawn, praying the thin walls and locked doors would hold. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the blackness outside the tightly shut blinds began to pale. Gray light seeped in around the edges. The sounds began to fade. The whistling dissolved. The tapping ceased. The whispers receded with the tide. Silence fell, broken only by the normal, comforting crash of morning waves. I didn't move until the sun was fully up, painting stripes of light through the blinds. Even then, every nerve felt raw, exposed. Sleep hadn't come. Not even for a second. I was running on pure adrenaline fumes and terror. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I was leaving. Now. First, the ritual. Rule H10, retrieving the bowl. My hands shook so badly I could barely work the bedroom doorknob. I crept into the main room, now filled with bright, almost mocking sunlight. Unlocking the main door, the porch door, my heart pounded. I slid the porch door open just enough to peer out. The bowl sat on the stool, empty, bone dry like yesterday. But this time wasn't quite like yesterday. On the wooden planks of the porch, near the stool, was a small, glistening patch. Still damp. Not water. It was slightly viscous, translucent, catching the light weirdly. And beside it, superimposed on the wood grain, was a faint, partial print. 3 narrow impressions ending in sharp points, arranged in an arc. Too large for a bird, too strange for any animal I knew. It looked chillingly like the tip off something's appendage. As I watched, horrified, the faint moisture seemed to sizzle and evaporate rapidly in the morning sun, the print vanishing before my eyes. Proof. Undeniable proof. Something had been here. Something solid. Something not right. That was all the motivation I needed. Back inside, I didn't pack. I threw things into my suitcase and backpack. Clothes, toiletries, the useless phone charger, the book I never finished. Didn't matter if it folded, wrinkled, broke. Just get it in the bag. Every few seconds, I found myself spinning around, checking the windows, the door, convinced I'd see a face peering in. A shadow moving where it shouldn't. The bright, sunny paradise outside felt utterly fake, a thin veneer over the nocturnal horror. Suitcase packed, backpack slung over my shoulder. I did one last sweep. Grabbed the keys. Stopped at the door. Took a deep breath. Walked outside into the brilliant sunshine, locking the bungalow door behind me for the last time. I didn't even bother putting the key back under the fern pot as Rule 8.4 instructed. Let Kala deal with it. Let her come out here herself. I practically sprinted to the Jeep, throwing my luggage in the back. Fumbled the key into the ignition, praying the engine would start. It turned over, sputtered, then discovered why, then caught with a reassuring roar. I didn't look back at the bungalow. Didn't look at the jungle. Didn't look at the ocean. Just slammed the Jeep into reverse, spun it around, and gunned it towards the jungle track. The drive out was pure, adrenalized fear. Every low-hanging branch looked like an arm reaching out. Every shadow seemed to hold a waiting shape. Why? The Jeep's engine whined in protest as I pushed it probably faster than was safe over the ruts and rocks. Desperate to put distance between me and that cursed place. When I finally saw the paved road again, a sob of relief escaped my lips. Cell service returned. I didn't stop driving. Kept going until I hit the first decent-sized town. Pulled into the parking lot of the first generic, brightly lit, reassuringly boring chain motel I saw. Checked in, paying for 2 nights up front without even asking the price. My room was on the 2nd floor, overlooking the parking lot and a gas station. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, bad art, sealed windows. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. I took the hottest, longest shower of my life, scrubbing furiously, as if I could wash away the feeling of the place. The lingering scent of salt and damp earth and fear. I tried reporting it. Called Airbnb customer service. Got put through a maze of automated meanness, and then spoke to someone in a call center miles away who sounded bored and skeptical. Unusual house rules, they repeated. Strange noises. They promised to document my concerns and reach out to the host. I knew it was useless. How do you report ancient whistling spirits and water bowl rituals? I checked the Airbnb app later that day, morbidly curious. The listing for the rustic beachfront bungalow was gone. No trace of it, No message from Kala. Just vanished. Like it never existed. It's been a few weeks now. I'm back in Chicago. Back to the fluorescent lights and the spreadsheets. It seems mundane, blessedly mundane. But I'm not the same. Sleep is difficult. Every creak of my apartment building at night sends jolts of panic through me. I avoid mirrors after dark without thinking about it. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right against my window, I think I hear a faint, melodic whistling, and I freeze, my blood running cold, until I realize it's just the wind. Or hope it is. I don't know what lives in that remote corner of Kauai. Spirits, ancient gods, something else, discovered why. Something drawn to the place, or bound to it. And Kalak, was she a willing participant? A caretaker bound by her own set of rules? Or just someone profiting off a place she knew was dangerous, protected only by a flimsy sheet of laminated warnings? All I know is that place is wrong. It's steeped in something old and hungry. Those rules weren't just suggestions. They were the bare minimum required to survive the night. Maybe they weren't just about protecting the renter, either. Maybe they were about containing what's there, keeping it focused on the small offerings, the brief nightly terror, preventing it from looking further afield. So, if you're ever scrolling through vacation rentals, dreaming of that perfect, cheap escape, and you find a place that seems too good to be true, tucked away somewhere remote, with maybe just a few slightly odd reviews, run the other way. Don't click book now. Don't gamble. Some paradises have teeth. Some doors should remain locked. And some places are best left undisturbed, alone with their rules, their whispers, and the things that whistle in the dark. Because you might not be as lucky as I was. You might just become another offering left out on the porch.